celebrity comes in. What was the substance of what he was saying? And I got to ask you the tone in which he was saying it.
Well, obviously, I didn't see the cigarette smoking part. I was inside the courtroom when this was going on, but it was a packed courtroom today, Jesse, despite it being very cold outside today, despite it even pouring down raining this morning when I came to court today. A lot of people were inside that courtroom because a lot of people wanted to know, what did Scott Kuddy, aka Kid Kuddy, really have to say. So when he walks inside the courtroom, to your point, Jesse, he was very, very casual. He had on a leather jacket. It was a little bedazzled. He had on a white t-shirt. He had on jeans, something that you kind of really don't see necessarily, especially in federal court. I mean, all the other witnesses have been in suits, even some of the escort witnesses, but for Kid Kuddy, he just came in very casual. He just walked right to the witness stand, didn't pay Diddy any type of attention from what I could see of him, but he got onto the witness stand and swore that oath like he normally, like all the other witnesses do, and then that's when we got into the testimony. And let me just say, Jesse, there was so much testimony. I was just writing things down and down and down again because there was really so much. And we knew about kind of the Molotov cocktail incident, especially because it was laid out in Cassy's federal lawsuit, right? But just hearing Kid Kuddy explain it from his own words were just a whole nother level, I could say.
People were laughing, right? People were laughing when he was testifying because he made that one comment that he sees Sean Combs. He had a meeting with him and said he looked like a Marvel supervillain. Were people laughing?
Yes, people were laughing, but if you're going to ask if Diddy was laughing, it didn't seem like he found that joke necessarily funny, but there was definitely some courtroom laughter, even from some of the jurors who were in the box. They were laughing as well, too, but from what I could see of Diddy, it didn't seem like he had much laughter going on in that specific moment, which was a complete 180 from kind of his demeanor when George Kaplan was testifying, where he seemed a little more jovial. He was laughing along, but when Kid Kuddy came on the stand, it felt like the smile just went down, right. And he had more of a serious demeanor and serious tone listening to Kid Kuddy testify.
And because, Kid Kuddy was providing some quite important pieces of damning evidence against Sean Combs. I mean, talk to us about his direct examination. What were some of the highlights that you took away from his direct examination? Because the prosecution, in my opinion, I was talking about it before, they're calling him not only to corroborate, I think, the account of Cassy, but to establish some of the elements of racketeering, right? The underlying crimes of maybe kidnapping, arson. Talk to us about some of the big moments from his direct examination, and then we'll talk about what the cross-examination was like.
Right, because the jury has been hearing about Scott Kuddy a lot, and they've been referring to Kid Kuddy as Scott Kuddy during this. So seeing Kid Kuddy in the flesh, I'm sure a lot of people wanted to know, what did he have to say about December 2011 specifically? Now, around that time frame, police actually responded to Kid Kuddy's then home. He's no longer in that home anymore now, but they responded to a call about a break-in at his home. So he said that day actually started with a call from Cassy herself about 5:30, 6:30 in the morning. And Cassy relayed to Kid Kuddy that Diddy had found out that the two were dating, and she sounded kind of stressed during this phone call. So what Kid Kuddy did was he picked her up. He took her to a hotel called Sunset Marquis, so that way it was a little safe for her to kind of hang out there and be at that hotel. But Kid Kuddy at the time said he didn't think that Cassy was even dealing with Diddy at this point. Diddy had asked actually for Kid Kuddy's address around this time, and one of the big moments was that Cassy was the one who actually gave Diddy Kid Kuddy's address. And so Kid Kuddy said he didn't know what Diddy was going to do. Then when he was at the hotel, he actually got a call, or he had spoken to Capricorn Clark, somebody that was Cassy's friend, but also somebody that had worked for Diddy. And
That's
so
crazy.
when Kid Kuddy was speaking to Capricorn Clark,
why the fuck was she giving him the number though? She set him up. That's crazy.
He was speaking to Capricorn Clark. Capricorn sounded scared on this phone call, pretty much on the verge of tears, because it was Diddy, one of his affiliates, an unnamed person, and Capricorn Clark were at Kid Cuddy's home. Kid Kuddy was kind of describing that essentially Capricorn Clark was essentially taken by physical force to go with them to Kid Cuddy's home while Kid Kuddy wasn't even there. So Kid Kuddy could verify that Sean Combs, aka Diddy, aka Puff Daddy, whatever we're calling him, was inside his home when he wasn't there. Kid Kuddy said that he actually went home after speaking with Capricorn Clark and just kind of rushed over there. Then we see an exhibit photo of the entrance of Kid Cudy's old home. It's the home of the break break-in, and you see the front gate door. And he described his neighborhood at the time being as far as being very quiet, family-oriented, and they had to kind of mention that he was driving a Porsche around that time. So Kid Cudi actually called Diddy while he was driving home, and there was some profanity here, so bear with me, everyone. He said, "Mother effer, are you in my house?" And Diddy said, "I just want to talk to you. I'm here waiting for you." And surprisingly, Kid Cudi explained that Diddy sounded relatively calm while he was on the phone speaking to him. So Kid Cudi thought his security cameras were working, and turns out he said someone kind of had moved them and angled them a little bit down, so that way, I guess whatever was going on wasn't captured on that video. And they had moved them the opposite angle, and said Kid Cudi verified he wasn't the one who moved those security cameras. But when he got home, Jesse, he said gifts were open on the kitchen counter. Stuff was pretty expensive. It was from Chanel. And that his dog, surprisingly, was locked in the bathroom. Now, his dog normally roams around free like a lot of our pets normally do. I mean, my cats right now are probably wandering around. I would never lock them inside the bathroom while I'm out of home or anything like that. So I can understand why that really stood out to him as far as his dog being inside the bathroom with the door closed. But he had that dog for about a 2-year period, and noticed that after this break-in had happened, that his dog became jittery and was always on edge at the time. So Kid Cudi got back into his car, he says, and called Diddy because he wanted to fight Diddy. He wanted to square up essentially and just find him and fight him because he believed that Diddy broke into his home. And so he said after this phone call, he thought about the reality of the situation and what more could possibly escalate from that situation. So what he ended up doing is he just called the police. And when he had returned home, because remember he was driving around looking for Diddy, essentially wanting to fight him, he says. And when he returned home, the police were there at his home. He filed a report, and then he was speaking with Cassy about the situation. And Cassy seemed pretty depressed about the situation, according to Kid Cudi while he was on the stand. And then he had said, because this was around December of 2011, and we know that shortly after that, Kid Cudi had spent the holidays with Cassy over at her family's home in Connecticut, and then they broke up shortly after. But the thing is, a few weeks later, January 9th of 2016, again, a few weeks after his break-in, his car caught on fire, or not even caught on fire, a Molotov cocktail was lodged into the driver's side of his car, of his Porsche, mind you. And we saw a lot of exhibit photos from that Molotov cocktail being inside, or not being inside that car, but we saw the aftermath of the Molotov cocktail in the car. So we saw an exhibit photo of the damaged car. You could see a cut at the top of the roof from the Molotov cocktail. The roof was blown out.
Lead a label,
Kid Cudi had said his friend Chip, who is one of his best friends, took those photos because he had got a call from his dog sitter at the time that
Cassy
his car
liked
was
the
on
Kid
fire, so
Cudi,
he rushed back home to see what
I'm not
happened.
sure.
Lo and behold,
Shit
this
crazy though.
entire incident happened. So we saw more exhibit photos of the burned driver's side doors, smoke damage, again, the hole of the roof, damage to the driver's side car, burned seats. He said when he arrived home, he did see the damage to his car, and he saw the Molotov cocktail. He saw that burnt bottle on the ground right next to the outside of his car. So he said police were actually there when he had arrived home, and his car wasn't even able to be repaired after this fire. And so they had said that this cocktail was in the driver's seat, and his reaction, to your point, Jesse, earlier about him just being so casual while he was on the stand and his one-liners, well, his one-liner for his reaction about a Molotov cocktail being lodged into his car was, "What the F?" And obviously I can't say what the F means, but we all know kind of from that. But as far as just the aftermath of it, there was this whole meeting at Soho House where essentially Diddy and Kid Cudi shook hands. Kid Cudi said that he didn't necessarily believe Diddy when Diddy had said, Kid Cudi had said something along the lines of, "What are we going to do about my car?" And Diddy said to Kid Cudi, "I don't know what you're talking about." But as we ended the redirect, because there was some cross-examination between that essentially Kid Cudi believed Diddy was lying about this because, there were some objections thrown here and there, but he kind of snuck in there that he believed that Diddy was a violent person and was the reason behind this Molotov cocktail in his car.
Yeah.
Just unbelievable testimony. So as I mentioned before, not only helps corroborate Cassandra.
If you or a loved one experienced inappropriate